And I seek everybody's agreement to open the meeting.
Great.
I'll just wait to see if anybody's coming. Okay, I want to inform those in attendance and anyone in the public gallery can use mobile devices through the Wi-Fi connection, and all devices should be muted. Password details are available in the gallery rules for anybody wanting to connect to the Assembly's Wi-Fi network. 3G and 4G should not be used, and no recordings or photographs are to be taken. Members are also asked to ensure that their electronic devices are switched to mute mode to ensure quality of sound recording. If members are content then, we will proceed through the agenda to the first item, which is apologies. So, are there any apologies?
Oh, from John, hold on.
So there's apology from John.
Ross Hussey.
And from Ross. Okay, hopefully other members then will join us in due course. I'd remind members that you are obliged to declare any relevant financial or other interest at each meeting as applicable. I would refer members to the draft minutes of proceedings from 26th of October, which is in your pack, pages 5 to 10 of the main pack. Any members, any issues with those minutes? And if there are no issues, then we'll take those as agreed and they will be published on the website. Okay. Moving on then to matters arising. You will see in pages 3 to 9 of your tabled pack that there is the usual summary table of requests and an update. Any issues arising from that?
Well, it might be superseded by the Minister said he'll have his rates policy out on Tuesday, but it just would be good to get the response on the NERTA and FSB evidence. Weren't they going to give us their analysis of that? It would be useful to get that as soon as possible.
I'm not sure if we do want to consider that actual point at this point, but he did seem to indicate that he was going to say something on Tuesday. We're not quite sure whether that is a statement of sort of a draft for consultation, some sort of indication of his direction, or if this is actually going to be his proposals. I would suggest that we do write to him urgently to try to find out what that is. I'm not sure, do any members have any insight into that? No. So I think if we write urgently to him to ask him what he is intending to do.
In the normal course of events, would we not expect as a committee to have been informed?
Well, I think in terms of discussions and preparation for this, what seems to happen is if there is I suppose a written or a statement to the Assembly, it would be taken, I think, to be in a draft form until the committee is consulted. To that end, you know, my suggestion would be that we do ask him to come to the committee next Wednesday. We had requested that he would come back and talk about those issues, and he hadn't yet responded. But given that he is going to, you know, say something about this on Tuesday, I think it would be appropriate for him to come to the committee as soon as possible. He may come back and say that, you know, it's too short notice, etc., etc., but I think it would be appropriate, so I think we should push him to try to do that.
My question really was, what is the protocol between a minister and the committee in terms of making some policy or quasi-policy statement on an issue that, for example, the committees are ready at discussing?
I think on this one, there had been a consultation in the previous mandate, and the committee had been consulted on that. It may be the case, I suppose it depends what he's intending to do, Jim, in that, you know, if he's intending to come out with his proposals for this, i.e. this is his decision in relation to this, he may say, well, look, you know, the department and the previous minister had consulted with the previous committee and we'd looked at that evidence, etc. I'm not sure, Jim, if you want to...
If it is a formal statement related to a formal consultation on proposals, it would be normal practice for the committee to see that consultation in draft form before it's finalised and issued. But at this stage, we don't know what the statement is, the specifics of the statement, so it's very difficult.
If it's not that, what could it be? A definitive statement?
It could be a decision, yeah, he could... Or it could be he's intended to consult on proposals. So I do think, you know, if we say to the clerk, if he can try to find out what it is that the department is intending to do as soon as possible, you know, emphasise it regardless of what it is on Tuesday. You know, the committee will, or the committee's clearly of the view that we should be consulted on that, and in fact that consultation should be meaningful, i.e. that, you know, in terms of our views, etc., there should be an opportunity for that to be taken into account for a final decision in relation to these. But at the moment, like, the only thing that we have is the fact that he referenced it in questions on Monday or Tuesday. Was it Tuesday?
Yeah.
So we need to find out what it is that he's suggesting, but also make it clear in that correspondence then that he needs to consult with us, or we'll be very keen. And I think actually it would be helpful for him because, you know, of the work that we've been engaged in as well. Is everybody content that we do that?
Yeah.
Yep. As you can see, there's still a number of outstanding correspondence, etc. So the clerk will obviously continue to try to strive to get responses to those as quickly as possible. Okay.
Sorry, is there any date, and I'm not sure if I'm doing this in the right order, but is there any date for our meeting with the PAC?
No, as my understanding is that they haven't met yet. I think they're meeting tomorrow, are they? So they'll consider that tomorrow. And
Is there not a deadline for them?
I think
Was it
23rd
the
of February.
23rd?
So, yeah.
Oh, February, sorry.
Sorry, February.
November. Yeah. Okay, so
3rd of November.
That's 23rd November, so it's...
there's only one possible date. Well, for us,
They'd indicated they wanted to have concluded their evidence by the 24th of November, and ideally would like to have met with the committee, but...
Yeah, there may be some flexibility in that.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, and we'll keep members informed as soon as we get an update about that as well. Moving on then, non-domestic grading system. As members recall, we put out a call for sort of written evidence to see who would be interested in coming along. There is, that written evidence is contained in your pack on page 14 to 113 of the pack. I think, Jim, I'm not sure if you want to speak to the matrix that you've mentioned that.
So in relation to all of this, I've developed a matrix on an Excel spreadsheet with filters in it, which there's filters by issue and by sector and that sort of thing. I'll show it to members after the meeting if members are content to stay on for a little while following the meeting. It labelled members, for example, if members want to look at industrial derating in particular, they'll be able to find out who said what on industrial derating without having to go through the whole spreadsheet. So I can show members how to work that later on.
And I think that would be very useful because, you know, obviously there's a key number of issues that everybody is given a view on, or most give a view on, so there are a finite number of issues. So I think this is useful in terms of seeing on each
Can that be
particular
sent
aspect
out,
of it.
Chair?
No, it's currently in draft form because I haven't managed to complete it yet.
Yeah.
I hope to issue it on Friday, and of course it will be subject to change because once oral evidence is taken, the oral evidence will be able to be put in there as well, and that'll add to the bank.
Yeah, just I have to leave today for another meeting, so I mightn't be able to see it today.
Well, if members do want to see it and they're not able to come, I can arrange to meet with members at a later date, maybe early next week.
Okay, so there's a list there. There's also the response from the Federation of Small Businesses, pages 11 to 18 of the tabled pack, and response from Manufacturing NI at 1928 of the tabled pack. If members recall, we also agreed to go out and do some external meetings, and there'd been some suggestions. I think, Philip, you had suggested Newton Arts.
Funny enough.
And I think Portadown had been suggested.
Really adventures.
Previously.
And Newry was
And
suggested.
Newry, okay.
Newcastle, or come on, Jim, let's
said
fight
why
for
you
our
would be saying
constituency.
I don't know why you're going past Ballymena.
Or Coleraine.
Okay, so there's a consensus emerging.
There is
then this
consensus
morning.
emerging.
And what's the matter going out?
I think it would be useful just first of all to indicate that the committee is being proactive, that we are willing to go out and speak to people. I think it's also good to actually see sort of some of the challenges and issues that
Okay, that's fine.
It's on the rates issue.
specifically on the rates issue.
Okay, that's all right.
So I suppose on a serious note, what I know everybody will want to go to somewhere in their constituency.
Of course,
but
definitely.
given that we've agreed in principle to two, do we have sort of any emerging leaders in terms of the options here?
Chair, the reason I suggested New Yards was, well, one, it's a compact and reasonably successful market town with a diverse retail base, but it's close. Somewhere that's distinct from Belfast, but very close to Stormont, so you can be there in 15 minutes.
Ballyclare.
But maybe the way you could look at it is we were the ones who always have to travel. Let's have somewhere that's more central for everyone.
Means Macrophile.
Ballymena.
Armagh.
Okay. Okay, so I suppose we'll take that away and then we'll come up
The members want to consider this when considering the strategic plan later in the meeting.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, have it.
Can I ask in relation to that, there's no point in us going along to some of these hubs, as you want to put it, where you're going to end up with the Chamber of Trade telling you exactly the same as what you've already heard from NERTA or from the FSB. You know, that's, there's no point in regurgitating, because I can guarantee you the same message will be heard in Ballyclare, the same message will be put forward by the traders in Ballymena. They'll all be telling you how bad a job we're doing, how little, how they detest paying rates, all of these issues. We're all going to hear the same story. So we need to have, probably identify an agenda on a way forward to extract additional information.
We do have, I think there's a number of opportunities, I suppose, on a more serious note, that, you know, clearly we have a number of sort of sectoral interests in terms of rates, and I think it'd be good to hear from those. I think that it is also a good opportunity to say, you know, if we are going out to a town, that they get a number of different people together. We've obviously got some limitations here where there's one or two witnesses that come in. If we are going out and we're talking to, you know, maybe, you know, a collection of 5 or 10 others, they may well be saying the same point. But I do think it's about looking at it from the, you know, that angle. But also, and I think we discussed it actually a couple of weeks ago, in terms of, you know, taking Portadown as an example. You know, there's Portadown where you've got obviously high vacancy, there's issues which we've looked at in terms of small business rates relief, but you've also got 2 large retailers, you know, in terms of Tesco and Asda, and you can sort of see, you know, you can, to me, actually see in the context of that and say, well, actually, if you lose a large retailer from in and around the town centre or city centre, it actually then will compound the issues. And I think sometimes we do look at these issues as sort of an either or, so, you know, supporting small business, but large retailers will take the share. You know, if you lose some of those bigger ones, it actually can compound the problem. And I think that applies across a number of different sectors. I think it's a good opportunity to see, you know, in a real way, how those sort of connect to each other, and also to send a message to, I suppose, outside of Belfast as well, that we're here to listen to their concerns.
There are potentially some towns that have maybe some unique issues that are only maybe unique to them, in relation to towns that are having maybe what I would call environment or improvement schemes that have been put forward by what was formerly as part of the Department of the Communities in conjunction with councils, where traders will miss out on their major cash catch over the Christmas period because of disruption. But there's a lack of flexibility within the rating system to allow accommodation to be made in that. There's that argument. Those are unique to certain areas. I've had that in my own area, where we had traders who said that if they don't get their Christmas trade, they will not be there. They'll not be there in March.
And I think it's not only the rates issue, but I suppose it's also, like, I think the committee had indicated in terms of our strategic planning and interest in looking at, you know, what we can do in terms of sort of an economic stimulus and how to encourage and support businesses, how do we encourage and support our towns. And, you know, I think it is actually a good opportunity to see the wider issues. Some of those issues will not be for this committee, but I just think to hear from, you know, real businesses on the ground, taking a look at what's happening and seeing what added value that we can bring to it by making whatever recommendations or even writing to other committees about that. I think
Maybe I misunderstood, but my perception was that when we went out to these 2 occasions, there would actually be occasions when we would take evidence as part of our rates investigation. So it would seem to me that we should choose 2 of the councils who have responded, invite them to make an oral presentation, invite them to host us, and then add to that some of the other stakeholders that we wish to hear from on that occasion. And presumably we can record outside as well as here. So it strikes me that's the way to do it. Since I see Mid and East Antrim have responded, it would be a good starting point.
That's called framing your argument.
Only has 2 that have done it, you see.
No, there's Fermanagh, there's Mid-Ulster, and there's others.
Okay, well, we'll let everybody sort of ponder how we're going to reach consensus on that, and we can deal
The
with
reason
as
why
much
I
as
was
we can.
proposing
Sorry, Jerry.
Coleraine, and it wasn't because it's beside
It's because it's so near for all of us, isn't it?
It's just St. Morelli's.
It's a unique situation there because there is the town centre, which is very run down, and then you have the nearby retail park, and there would be a lot of conflict there between the two, and actually retailers in the town centre would blame the retail park for taking trade away from the town centre, so there are a lot of issues there, and I just thought it would be good to meet with both groups. And
But is it not a fair comment to say, if the local council didn't trouble to respond
fair
to
point.
the invitation,
Yeah.
why are we running after them?
Yeah, fair point. I just thought from our perspective, you know, it'd be good for us to meet and get to hear and understand the issues there.
Just, presumably this isn't in lieu of our Wednesday meetings, is it?
No, I think we
Like, it
we're
wouldn't be
going to look
additional
at
to-
trying to do it additional, but you know, I also accept that it might be difficult for members as well. I suppose we'll deal with this point, I suppose, in a bit more detail when we get to the strategic planning, because you know, I would make the suggestion in relation to that we do, and we had this discussion around looking at how many hours that we have available, what are our key priorities, and how we're going to sort of, I suppose, allocate time to each of those to make sure that everything's happening in parallel. If we're going out and about, you know, if we're doing that in lieu of a meeting, you're really losing about 6 hours of, I suppose, committee time that we would have for other things. But it would still be useful in terms of our discussions anyway. So I think it's obviously up to the committee whether you want to do that on a Wednesday
Right.
afternoon or not, or whether you want to do it additional.
Okay. Well, I'll be arguing for Warren Point that.
Okay, well,
For the same reasons as Coleraine, as your argument for
members
Coleraine.
can
Respond?
Well, that, like, I wouldn't just judge on responses because there's so many consultations that go out that, you know, people respond in various ways. So I would.
City Airport.
And members, just to inform members as well, Manufacturing and I have indicated that they are available to provide oral evidence next week on this issue of rates. So if you're happy enough that we'll proceed with that. So it's just, I suppose, a different angle on the issue. So we will obviously run in parallel with this with a series of oral briefings as well. But everybody content to hear from Manufacturing and I next week? Yeah. Okay. We'll revisit that then when we talk about the strategic plan, so if all members can have a further think throughout the meeting and on to how we're going to select. Okay, moving on then to correspondence. There's various items of correspondence, pages 125 to 158 of the main pack. And I've asked the clerk to brief members and as to update a position on that.
Sure. The first item of correspondence that member says from the Department of Finance, monthly forecast and outturn data. I think this is something that traditionally the Committee for Finance and Personnel would have got on a regular basis and forwarded it to the Audit Committee and Statutory Committees. I think it's also used by research to inform their work as well. Then from the Committee for the Executive Office on the Draft Programme for Government. Members might want to consider what evidence the committee may wish to receive. The consultation is now open. It's closed on the 23rd of December. I've asked the department to provide information on the outcomes for which the Permanent Secretary in the Department of Finance has responsibility, as well as the indicators for which any officials have responsibility, and then have updated that with a further request for any Department of Finance input to delivery plans. So once we get that information to the committee will be able to decide what, if any, evidence it wants to take in relation to the programme for government. So we're hoping to get that fairly quickly.
Okay.
Have we put any suggestions forward in relation to discussion points that could be brought forward at that? Because I know the Infrastructure Committee had a meeting yesterday at which there was a number of items brought up that actually crossed over with what the Department of Finance were involved, should have been including, and one of which was Northern Ireland Water are getting 900 million for infrastructural improvements within their system to really improve water quality and the water drinking quality and sewage treatment, to which there was an issue which Building Control they have a right to put forward building regulations under this department's control, and if they do a proper joint up approach, they could reduce the amount of water that they're having to actually produce as drinking quality water for homes if they put in a programme which is happening in several other European countries as well as America, where water which is not needed to be a drinking quality for washing your car, for watering your garden, doesn't have to be drinking quality water that you're using for that, as opposed to what we're doing. We just send it down the drain, add to our sewage problem that we currently have. It should be filtered off and put in to suds that are held in site at each new house or new development and used on site. And that's a building control regulation that could be put forward on all new developments. So it's something which would save them a fortune, because they say there's millions of litres wasted driving washing machines, flushing toilets and washing cars that doesn't need to be used as drinking quality water. You might as well go to Tesco and buy bottled water, because it costs them a fortune to actually keep it at that quality. And I'm just saying that they're saying that other countries are doing this, and why are we not including some of those
And
sorts
is
of
the
measures?
Infrastructure Committee going to write to us in relation to that?
Yes.
Okay. I think it might be worth putting the programme for government on the agenda perhaps for next week, or the next couple of weeks, to take a look at and see what further suggestions that we have as well. I thought the Finance Minister, in response to, I think it was originally Philip's question on the York Street Exchange, and then in response to my question about guarantees in relation to European funds, was worth further interrogation and consideration, in that it did appear that he is accepting that there are guarantees. So clearly that's going to have an implication in terms of the budget. I suppose on the other side of that, there was the concern that although he seemed to be accepting that there were guarantees up until the point where we actually Brexited, that I wasn't entirely clear what the point he was making about the British government guaranteeing something after we Brexit. But I think we should see clarity from the Minister as to, to get it in writing that he's accepting that there are guarantees there up until the point of Brexit. To ask him for further clarification as to what he means when he said he wasn't happy that the British government wasn't agreeing letters of offer or anything signed after Brexit in relation to European continuation of funds. I honestly don't know what that meant at all. But if he is accepting the principle of the Treasury guarantee, then I think there are implications for the likes of infrastructure around York Street Exchange and others. If there is any prevarication about that, I think there's a concern about the pipeline of infrastructure projects, because we should be maximising the opportunity now within the continuation beyond Brexit given by the Treasury. So there will be elements like that, I think, that will be, in terms of this committee, we do have an interest in that in terms of programme for government and then the associated budget. Are there any other issues that members would want considered?
Chair, in looking at the programme for government and the indicators, the only indicator that I've been able to find relates to a provision of high quality public services, and it's the indicator relating to increasing online services. And it's the only one that I've found that the Department of Finance is responsible for, which is why I've gone back out again and sought input to delivery plans. So if we get that for next week for the Department included in PACS, then that'll give something for the committee to consider in relation to the programme for government next week.
But I think there is a connected issue in that, in order to have a public service which is capable of delivering against sort of a new way of doing business, which is an outcomes-focused approach, will require systems change in terms of, I suppose, the behaviours within the public sector, their approaches, what work is being done by respective permanent secretaries around preparing the workforce for a different way of working, a more collaborative way of working. And obviously that sort of public sector reform side does fall to the Department of Finance as well. So I think there's some questions that we could be asking about that in terms of what has gone out to other departments to move into a different space. Okay. Any other comments in terms of any of the other correspondence? No? Okay. Okay, moving on then to Forward Work Programme. I would refer members to pages 375 and 378, or 375 to 378 of the main pack. So as indicated, our members are content that we invite the Minister to come along next week if possible. We've got manufacturing NI as well. Do we want to indicate to the Minister that we want to speak to the Minister about the programme for government and budget implications next week as well? And then maybe touching on the European side to see if we can get some clarity then just about those European fund guarantees. Any members, any comments on that?
So does that mean we'd have 3 sessions of oral evidence?
We move
That might be.
manufacturing back or something.
Maybe leave manufacturing to the following week.
So if members are content, I can contact manufacturing NI and say that the committee has provisionally agreed, and then once the Minister has confirmed, I can then, so that
Yeah, I suspect, yeah, just in case the Minister says it's not available, yeah.
unless if the Minister isn't available, members will be content to hear from officials.
I think he said he was coming back, so I think we should.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to deal with any other business and date, time and place of the next meeting because the 2 remaining substantive items are in closed session. So just in case members want to dash off after I deal with this, we do have 2 further substantive items. Any other business from anybody? Nope. And the date, time and place of the next meeting is next Wednesday at room 20, in this room, at 2 o'clock, yeah. Okay, so members are content, we'll just move into closed session. Yep, okay.
This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 29.